terms of improving. Number one, improving gross margin means you got to get the absolute most you can out of what you've already paid for. You can't sell a unit of sale unless you've already paid for this stuff. So, you know, again, like the scapers that we have coached, it was always very interesting, right? As we're coming into the winter, right? They're going, well, I gotta buy salt. I gotta buy salt for, you know, spreading the salt in my parking lots that I have. And so I gotta buy that. Well, guess what, guys? That's a big cash outlay right then and there, with the notion that I'm gonna have jobs that will sell that salt. But we have to get the absolute most we can from that. And the same is true for labor. I've got to train my labor, get the most I can from my labor. Boy, that's a whole nother discussion about setting great expectations and then measuring those expectations relative to the outcomes. Probably the accountability and taking corrective action. Whole nother conversation. Back to the gross profit. Our task is, how do I keep this not just stable at 50%, but even try to improve it? 2 more points. One, take a look at your product mix. That means some businesses just have way too many products.
Amazon.
Well, they're largely digital merchandisers. Okay, so
products. But yeah, but again, there are some things that cost more, or a lot larger margin, and some that a smaller margin. Like in a grocery store, there's some items that are staples that have a low margin, and then the stuff that's usually on the snack center, which have a little bit higher margin, and they usually want to sell those snacks more because they make more per sale than like vegetables.
So let's come back to service businesses and manufacturing, even and distribution, because I was in all 3 of those. In the distribution business and in manufacturing, there can be a tendency to have more products than you frankly need. And so if you think about it, again, on a unit of sale, if I'm inventorying materials with a product mix of 100 items, but only 65 of them are actually making me reasonable money and turning, in other words, being sold on a frequent enough basis, then I've got 35 items that it just doesn't make sense. I should just cut them out. So if your product mix is too broad and you're not analyzing it, every year I would go through the product mix at every company that I ran and determine, you know, here's the bottom 10%. I'm going to discontinue those.
But getting more complicated, there are seasonal items. You mentioned winter and spring.
Sure.
So there are seasonal items that have a peak in one season and then drop off another season. So you can rotate your offerings depending on the season and depending on the demand.
Yeah, so the product mix, too many products, and again, another true example of this is in a manufacturing environment. By example, you know, if you're gonna manufacture X number of items of that product for sale, then you manufacture it, and then you got to set up for the next product, and then you got to set up for the next product, and the next product, and all of a sudden, labor is no longer productive because they're going through so many setup changes. And keep in mind, you know, when you're setting up a manufacturing line, even an assembly line, distribution, and you're having to go through a variety of setups, you're actually not, you feel like you're pushing product out, right? But you're not. It's just.
So if you got a call for one item, you set up for that and you run, let's say 1,000 units, and then you get another order for another 500 units. And then you come back the next day and set up that same for that first unit for another 500. You could have done 1,500 the first time and then had that sit for the day before you move on to the next one.
Yeah, and that you leave that up to your scheduler, by example. And a lot of times the business owner is the scheduler. And what he's doing is he's looking out, right? He's looking out, at least a week or two or maybe more